started grabbing me and pulling me, and so I fought with them. And we fought and fought and fought. And it became pitch black. And so they started grabbing me and pulling me, and so I fought with them. And we fought and fought and fought.
All right.
And it began with kicking and punching, but there were a lot of them now, maybe hundreds. I'm just speculating. It degenerated into them plucking out my eyes, invading my ears. I don't like to talk about this at all. Invading my every orifice violently. And then it went from that to them eviscerating me because I'm in pitch black. And so they started grabbing.
This is Beyond with Heather Tesh, where we
Nobody I've been more excited to have on than you, because you have such an incredible story. I liked your book so much, My Descent into Death, that I actually bought an extra copy. So I had one to loan out and one to keep, because you know how you loan a book and then sometimes you don't get it back. So I actually have two of them.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also have your audiobook. So with all that being said, you have an incredible story. I'd love to have you share it with my audience. So can you take us to just before you had your near-death experience and everything that was going on?
In 1985, I was 38 years old. I was raised as a Christian. We were taken to church, dropped off, every Sunday. I never saw any evidence of faith in my home.
Check something.
There was an old Bible on the bookshelf that was never taken off the bookshelf. And on Christmas and Easter, when we had family, there would be a brief prayer before we ate. That was it. Anyways, I was very enthusiastic about my faith until I 14, 15 years old. And that's a whole other story that I won't go into. But something happened that totally disillusioned me about the church, faith, my pastor and everything. So I stopped going to church, turned away from the faith, and I found the answers that I was looking for in existentialism. So it's completely self-centered, egocentric living. And of course that appealed to a 15-year-old, in a very, very dysfunctional family. So anyways, when I went to college at the age of 17, I took my first semester, I took a philosophy class, and my professor was an atheist, and I became his pet student. We became really good friends, and absolutely convicted me of my making myself a god. That's with a small g, of course. And that's how I lived. When I became a college professor in 1972, I gravitated towards other atheists, also in this new state of Kentucky with not knowing anybody. All of my friends were college professors. They were all atheists, and we all strongly supported our cynicism and our contempt, utter contempt for Christianity. And that's not uncommon in universities, that many, if not a majority of people in public universities are atheists. And it suited me superficially. I would like to say that there was something hugely lacking in my life, and I then and now refer to it, there was a giant hole in my heart, a huge emptiness. which I tried to fill with seeking fame, recognition, power, sex, domination, control. And by the way, that is a...
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just...
I called my wife over, who was sitting in a chair next to me, and I've got to abbreviate this because some of the stuff gets a little too emotional. I told her, tell my parents and my sisters I loved them. Tell my friends I loved them. I love you, dear. Now it's time for me to go. And she cried like I'd never seen her cry before. And she sat down in the chair with her head in her hands. That's the last thing I saw. And I didn't want to see that, so I just stopped breathing. And I went unconscious. Another question that I get asked, and I've given my talk a lot of times, so I'm anticipating some of the questions. People say, how long have you been conscious? It doesn't really matter, because the thing that people don't understand, that near-death experiencers have a great deal of difficulty trying to explain to people, is there is no time outside of this world. So, I felt I was standing up next to the bed with my hospital gown on, feeling better than I'd ever felt in my whole life. And I heard people outside the room saying, hurry up, let's go. We've been waiting for you. And I said to them,
check this video out though, man.
Are you from the doctor? Because I need to have an operation. And they said, we know all about you. We've known everything about you. It's time for you to go. Don't ask questions. Let's go. Now, I couldn't see them because the hallway was dark and the room was bright lit. And so I was, I had a bad feeling about all this, going from the light into the dark with this group of very officious people yelling at me. So I left the room and I went out, and there was a number of them, maybe 8 or 10 of them, I don't know. It was dark. I couldn't really see them. They were all adults, men and women. And this way. So they surrounded me and led me into the darkness. Now, as we walked, and this journey went on for a very long time, one of the things I realized was we never hit stairs. I never found a wall. It was just a plane of darkness with no, other than the floor. It was clammy, a little bit warm. But one of the things that distracted me was the tone of the people around me, which went from commanding me to do this and that to them getting ugly, and saying things that were very disturbing, like, I only had a hospital gown, which of course didn't cover my backside, and people were talking about my buttocks and how attracted they were to them, which was very disturbing, and we're going to have fun with saying things like, we're going to have fun with him,
That's the thing.
stuff like that. And like,
I use Streamlabs to do
this
YouTube
is bad. So
and TikTok.
after a very long journey in the darkness for these people, I had it with them, and I said, I'm not going any further with you. I'm going back, which was a bluff because, of course, I had no concept of which way was right, left, forward, back, because I'm in pitch black. And so they started grabbing me and pulling me, and so I fought with them. And we fought and fought and fought. And it began with kicking and punching, but there were a lot of them now, maybe hundreds. I'm just speculating. It degenerated into them plucking out my eyes, invading my ears, I don't like to talk about this at all. Invading my every orifice violently. And then it went from that to them eviscerating me. So that's enough of that. I'm laying on the floor ground of that place. And there's a number of people around me, and occasionally they were kicking me, but I couldn't react anymore. I was physically, emotionally so exhausted. All I could do was just little moans. I had no fight left in me, no response. So, laying in that place, I thought about my life. And I'm not going to go through all that. that would take hours, but I thought about my life, and what I concluded was I was a fool and my life was meaningless. Basically, I was a little fish in a little pond. As an artist, as a college professor, basically I had deceived myself into thinking that I was something that I was not. And there was no point to my life. My life was just been a big delusion of my grandiosity, which I realized that the people who had escorted me and attacked me in this place were my kindred brothers and sisters.
We're one of the only social media agencies that guarantees 1 million views or you don't even pay. But honestly, that is just kind of what we say for marketing. If you give me 15 seconds, I'll explain how this actually works. So what actually happens is
And what was happening to me was that I was being processed into their world, which was a world of cruelty and hopelessness and domination. And it occurred to me the only way that if I could ever get ambulatory again was that I had to become crueler and more dominant to keep from being a victim. Because there were basically two kinds of people in this world, the victims and the victimizers, And I assume those roles probably changed frequently, Anyways, that was their world. Now, I refer to this place as hell. My best friend was a Catholic priest, and he said, it wasn't hell, it was purgatory, which I think he's wrong, quite wrong, but that's another long story. But anyways, he meant well. So I'm lying in that place with no hope. I did not want to be there. I did not want to become one of them. Mine went to me as a boy in Sunday school, singing Jesus Loves Me. And when it did that, I could see myself in Sunday school with the other kids singing that, but most importantly, in my heart and in myself, I felt that Jesus loves me. This I know, for the Bible tells. I hope your viewers know that song.
I think most do.
And I wanted that. I wanted what I had lost 30 odd years before, or what I had 30 odd years before, which I lost when I was 15. And with all the strength I mustered, I called out, Jesus, please save me. The people that were around me were horrified that I had prayed, but they retreated back into the darkness because a faint light appeared in the darkness and became very bright, very fast. if that light were light as we know light in this world, it would have consumed me. I would have been fried to a crisp by that light. Wasn't that kind of light. It's a different kind of light. And it felt wonderful. And it came over me, and I was very aware of a presence in that light, and out of that light came hands and arms, reached down, touched me, and when he touched me, now in that light, for the first time, I was able to see what I was, and I was, without exaggeration, I was roadkill, you know? All of that melted away, and I was restored without the hospital gown. And I was filled with a love that there is no way to describe the magnitude and the wonderfulness of that love with any words we have in English, except beyond description. And his hands and arms reached underneath me and picked me up, and he lifted me to himself and put his arms around me and held me very tight against himself. I put my arms around him and held him like I never was going to let go. And I cried into his chest like I'd never cried in my life. And I'm talking slobber. And I kept thinking, oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm slobbering all over, you know. And I can't talk because I'm acting like a baby, you know. And then I realized something weird was happening. We were going up. I didn't even notice the lift off because it was so gentle, but I did notice we are going up and up, faster and faster and faster. And we're traveling at some great rate of speed. And I got enough composure together to stop crying and to look up to where we were going. And my first impression was it was a huge galaxy of light. Except that one of the things I noticed was a lot of those lights were coming and going, which stars don't, stars don't come and go. They're pretty stationary. And I didn't know what to make of it. And I said to my new friend, we had not spoken yet. I said to him, you've made a terrible mistake. I don't belong here. Because I knew that where we were heading was a good place, a really good place. I had a suspicion it was heaven. We stopped outside of this world of light, and he said, we don't make mistakes. You do belong here. Now, when he spoke to me, he spoke in his voice directly into my mind. It was not audible, but I heard him in his male, mature voice very clearly. And I said to him, how do you know what I thought? I didn't say I don't belong here, you made a mistake. And he said, I know everything you've ever thought. And with that, I had a huge uh-oh. And I began to think, oh, there's lots of things that I've thought that I don't want him to know. And he started laughing and laughing and laughing. And he said, it's okay. I know everything. And so we began to converse. And he was very charming, had a great sense of humor. I was crystal clear that this was Jesus Christ. And later on, that was confirmed over and over again. But anyways, we were having a great time, and he said, "I have some people I want you to meet." So he called out
I might just end this stream real
in
quick,
musical
yo.
tones.
Hold on. I'm trying to figure this shit out.